ॐ यश्छन्दसां वृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोऽभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया स्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासं शरीरं मे विचर्षणं जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवं ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पीता श्रुतं मे गोपाय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। मंगलाचरणम्।
यो ब्रह्माण्डमिदं करोति सुकरं सत्यं शिवं सुन्दरं यस्यानुग्रहमाप्तुमेव सुजना सर्वे यतन्ते सदा। भक्तिं यस्य विना कदापि पुरुषो मुक्तिं न वै विन्दते। वेदान्ते च यमाहुरेकपरमं देवाय तस्मै नमः।
So last time we were seeing in chapter 2 the views of Houston Smith. So he has described the 4 ways of attaining to God. One was Jnana Marga, and another one was Bhakti Marga, and the third one was the way to God through work, that is Karma Yoga. So we have seen all these. So we have to see the last one, that is Dhyana Yoga, or the way to God through psychophysical exercises. That is nothing but this Patanjali Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, or Vivekananda calls it as Raja Yoga. So that we will see today. So Houston Smith describes, because of the dazzling heights to which it leads, Raja Yoga has been known in India as the Royal Road to Reintegration. Designed for people who are of scientific bent, it is the way to God through psychophysical experiments. That means yogasanas and other things. The theory postulates that the human self is a layered entity. First and most obviously, we have bodies. Next comes the conscious layer of our minds. Underlying these two is a third region, the realm of the individual subconscious. This has been built up through our individual histories over past so many lives. Underlying the other three, less perceived by the conscious mind than even its private subconscious, stands the being itself. That means Atma, the being itself, infinite, unthwarted, eternal. Unthwarted means unhindered, unopposed, unhampered. That means it doesn't care for all whatever is going on here. It is completely independent. The same thing in Taittiriya Upanishad, and we have seen it is taken as 5 layered. Outer one body is described as Annamaya Kosha. Then physiological functions are described as Pranamaya Kosha. And then this mind, what he says, is described there as Manomaya Kosha. And then the intellect, the Vijnanamaya Kosha. And then Anandamaya Kosha. That is what he is telling us, being itself infinite, unthwarted, eternal. That is Anandamaya Kosha, where the Jivatma and the Paramatma are both residing. So the purpose of Raja Yoga is to demonstrate the validity of this fourfold estimate of the human self by leading the inquirer to direct personal experience of the beyond that is within. That means the Paramatma who is inside in our own heart. The beyond that is within. So that we have to experience. Means that is aparoksha jnana, or we have to see directly the Paramatman. How they are doing? With the hypothesis Raja Yoga proposes to test before us, we are prepared to indicate the 8 steps of the experiment itself. This Patanjali Yoga, it is also known as Ashtanga Yoga because there are 8 steps. So Patanjali Yoga Sutra starts Atha Yoga Anushasanam. That means he says, now I will tell you the discipline of yoga, the subject matter of yoga. And then he defines what yoga is. Another second sutra he says, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. The purpose of yoga is to withdraw this mind from all other these worldly things and concentrate on the Atman. So Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And the 8 steps given by him are, most of you know it, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi. These are the 8 steps. And that Houston Smith is describing the same 8 steps here. So he says, step 1 and 2, both Yama and Niyama. The first 2 concern the moral preliminaries with which all 4 yogas begin. Whatever may be the yoga, where you are having bhakti yoga or karma yoga, this first step is always moral preliminaries. Shamadamadi Shatka Sampatti. That is Shankaracharya says. Shamadamadi, Shama and Dama. So the control of mind, and further they both are control of mind only. One is inborn and another one is force, Yama and Niyama. The first, that is Yama, involves the practice of 5 abstentions. 5 abstentions are Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Titiksha and Samadhana. So he says the first involves non-injury. That means abstention from injury, abstention from lying, abstention from stealing, and abstention from sensuality and greed. So the Satya, Ahimsa, Asteya and Brahmacharya over. Then the second Niyama involves some disciplines. The second involves the practice of 5 observances or disciplines: cleanliness, contentment, self-control, studiousness, and contemplation of the divine. So these are the first 2 steps. They are common. Then the third step, we call it as asana. That he is describing. What is attempted is a bodily state midway between discomfort, which rouses and disturbs, and at the opposite pole, a relaxation so complete that it sinks into drowsiness or sleep. So the position should be actually, you should get a position which is what is that? Equilibrium, stable equilibrium. In physics, you know, there are 3 equilibriums. One is unstable equilibrium, and the second one is stable equilibrium, and third one is neutral equilibrium. So for dhyana or for meditation, you always require a stable equilibrium. When is unstable equilibrium? When you are meditating while standing or while running, that time you don't have stable equilibrium, you have unstable equilibrium. And if you sleep and start meditating, you are in neutral equilibrium so that you will get sleep. That is what he says. You will get drowsiness. In between the two means it should be stable equilibrium. What is attempted is a bodily state midway between discomfort, that means unstable equilibrium, which rises and disturbs, and at the opposite pole is a relaxation, that means neutral equilibrium, when so complete that it sinks into drowsiness. So the Hindu discoveries for achieving this balance are called as asanas, a word usually translated as postures, but which carries connotations of balance and ease. That the Hindu texts describe 84 postures indicates extensive experimentation in the area, but only about 5 are considered important for meditation. What they are is Padmasana, Siddhasana, Virasana, and so like that. There are 5. So, most important is the world renowned lotus position, that is Padmasana, in which yogi sits. Given that standing induces fatigue, chairs invite slumping, and reclining encourages sleep, there may be no other position in which the body can remain for as long as a stretch, both still and alert. So all these asana, yogasana class people, they tell all these things. But actually, neither Patanjali has said anything about this asana in his sutras, nor Vedavyasa has told anything in the Brahma Sutra. They don't consider this, you sit in Padmasana or you sit in Siddhasana and all. What Patanjali has told about asana is Sthira Sukha Asanam. That means you sit in a position where you are sthira, that means you are stable, and sukha, that means you are comfortable. You sit in a comfortable and stable position. That much only Patanjali says. And Vedavyasa also has told the same thing. You don't have to sit in Padmasana or any Siddhasana or and all. If they sit, let them sit. You sit anything that is convenient for you. So then the fourth one, actually it is all these asanas, 84 and all, they are a part of Hatha Yoga. It is a separate thing. It is a physical exercise. Hatha Yoga, it has nothing to do with dhyana and all. So far as Patanjali is concerned, he says Sthira Sukham Asanam. Then the next one is after Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, next one is Pratyahara. Pratyahara means withdrawal. The yogic postures protect the meditator from disruptions from the body in its static aspect, such as fourth is pranayama. First yama, niyama, asana, and the fourth one is pranayama. So he is telling about pranayama. Yogic postures protect the meditator from disruptions from the body in its static aspects, such as breathing. The purpose of Raja Yoga's fourth step is to prevent such disruptions through the mastery of respiration. The exercises prescribed towards this end are numerous and varied. So he has not described different because there some Kapalabhati, Bhastrika, and so many things, Anuloma, Viloma, and other things they teach. But so far as this meditation is concerned, they are concerned with the basic process of pranayama, which is described in Bhagavad Gita also. Bhagavad Gita says अपाने जुहति प्राणम प्राणेपानम तथा परे प्राणापान गतिरुद्ध्वा प्राणायाम परायणाः. He has told the four basic steps. What are they? Puraka. Puraka means you fill the lungs. So, and Rechaka means you throw away the air, breath. Puraka is breathing in, and Rechaka is breathing out. And then in between two, there is one is Antar Kumbhaka and another one is Bahir Kumbhaka. And Antar Kumbhaka, you hold the breath inside, and Bahir Kumbhaka, you hold the breath outside. That means you keep the lungs vacant. That is what is told. This is the basic process. And for the purpose, we will see why it is done. It has nothing to do with your physical exercises. It has to do for your mind control. This is adopted. So that I will describe next at the end when we come for the meditation. So far as Houston Smith is concerned, he has referred only this much so far as pranayama is concerned. The next fifth one is pratyahara. This composed body at ease, its breathing regular, the yogi sits absorbed in contemplation. The senses turn outward always. The yogi is testing a hypothesis that the deepest truth is opened only to those who turn their attention inward. And in this experiment, the physical senses can be nothing but busybodies. That means the physical senses, they don't allow us to see inside or concentrate inside. Because the eyes want to see outside, the ears want to see something from outside, like that. The nose wants to smell something from outside. So they don't allow you to concentrate inside. So the final transitional step in the process of effecting this turn from the external to the internal world is to close the doors of perception, for only so can the clatter of the world's boiler factory be effectively shut out. The technique, though is identical, the concentration on one thing excludes the other thing. So he is telling how to achieve this pratyahara, that is withdrawal of your attention from the outside world. In Kathopanishad, there is a beautiful verse about this only. So the Kathopanishad says, Paranchi khani vetranat swayambhus tasmat parang pashyati nantaratman kaschid dhiraha pratyagatmanamaikshata avritta chakshur amritatvamischan. So what he says, khani means our indriyas, all our sense organs. Paranchi, they are all focused outside. Paranchi khani vetranat swayambhus, automatically on their own, by nature, they are all concentrated or focused outside. Tasmat parang pashyati antaratman. So normally man always looks outside, he doesn't see inside. Kaschid dhiraha. So one rare daredevil man, pratyagatmanam aikshata, he sees the Atman inside. Avritta chakshu, he turns the eyes from outside to inside. And amritatvamichan, because he wants to get this immortal status, happy and immortal status, that is moksha, and that is mukti. He wants that one. Therefore, kaschid dhiraha pratyagatmanam aikshata avritta chakshu amritatvamichan. So that is what this step is there, that is withdrawing from outside and concentrating inside. Then the sixth step is dharana. Sixth one is dharana. last, the yogi is alone with his mind. The 5 steps enumerated thus far all point to this eventuality. One by one, the intrusions of cravings, a troubled conscience, body, breath, and senses have been stopped. That means they have been silenced. Alone with itself, the mind still shows not the slightest inclination to settle down or obey. So, a normal mind can be held to a reasonable extent by the worldly objects. That means when we look at something beautiful, so our attention is held there. Or when we hear a beautiful music, then our attention is held there. So he says a normal mind can be held to a reasonable extent by the world's objects, and a psychotic mind cannot. It slips at once into uncontrolled fantasy. So, the abnormal mind, that is psychotic or insane or mad or deranged fellows, he always is interested in his own thing, some fantastic thing. So, it is attracted there only. So, he says, what if a third condition of mind could be developed as much above the normal mind as the psychotic mind is below it? See, normal mind is at a certain level, so it is attracted by things outside, and a psychotic mind is below that level, so it is attracted to some fantasy of its own. Now there is a mind above that one, so you have to seek a position above the normal mind. So that is what he says. And, what if a third condition of mind could be developed as much above the normal mind as the psychotic mind is below? That means a condition in which the mind could be induced to focus protractedly, this is continuously, on an object to fathom it deeply. This is the aim of concentration. That is the sixth step of Raja Yoga. The method proposed for reaching this state is not exotic, it's not unnatural, only arduous. It is difficult, it is troublesome, because you have to exert. One begins by relaxing the mind to allow thoughts that need release to exorcise. That means they leave themselves from the subconscious. So some ideas go on coming, allow them to come, and then they go away on their own. Don't try to control them. So you allow them to go. Then one selects something to concentrate on. It may be the glowing tip of a joystick, udbatti, or the tip of one's nose, or an imaged sea of infinite light. The object does not matter, and practices keeping mind on the object until success increases. So once we had been to Pondicherry, near Pondicherry, they have constructed one more place which is called as Auroville. In that Auroville, there is one Dhyana Mandira. It's a big tent like this. In your circus, you see, big tent like that, or even cricket match. So it is a covered thing, and on the top is a big circular place, closed from all the sides, and it is kept absolute clean, and with some uh, mattresses for sitting, and you have to remove your shoes and all. They will give you socks, clean socks, and you have to go slowly without making any noise, and you can sit anywhere. It's a big circle. At the center, they have kept a big football or bigger than that, a round glass ball, a big glass ball. and everywhere it is closed. And at the top exactly, there is a small slit or a recess. So a light comes only from there and it falls directly on that glass ball. Wherever you sit, you see a light there, a glass. In that glass, you see some light. So you have to sit there and you have to concentrate on that one. So like this only. And in Kanyakumari, here that Vivekananda rock is there. There also one Dhyana Mandira is there. You have to sit and concentrate without making any noise. That is called Dharana. That is the sixth step. That means once you concentrate on a particular object may be anything. So your other concentrations or other attractions will be removed from that one. This much only the exercise. You withdraw from all other attentions and you only concentrate on one particular point. This is called dharana. And the next step, that is seventh, that is dhyana. In this seventh step, in which concentration deepens into meditation, the union between the two is tightened to the point where separateness vanishes. The subject and the object are completely merged so that the self consciousness of the individual subject has disappeared altogether. In this moment, the duality of knower and known is resolved into a perfect unity. So then, eighth step is samadhi. There remains the final climactic, this is the highest point, climactic state for which the Sanskrit word samadhi should be retained, because in English there is no other such word. So he says you retain this word samadhi. Samadhi, there are two words for which there is no parallel in English. One is samadhi and another one is bhakti. Bhakti, devotion, is very poor translation. So samadhi, simply concentration, no, it's not there. So he says you retain the word samadhi. Samadhi then names the state in which the human mind is completely absorbed in God. The distinctive feature of samadhi is that all of the objects' forms fall away. For forms are limiting boundaries. To be one form, others must be excluded. And what is to be known in Raja Yoga's final stage is without limits. That is the mind, has perfected the paradox of seeing the invisible. So in this samadhi, you are seeing the invisible. The Paramatman or the Brahman, he has got no form and he is not visible. And you are trying to see him. So seeing the invisible, it is filled with that which is separated from all qualities, neither this nor that, without form, without a name. This he is describing the Nirguna Brahma of Advaita philosophy. So he says the mind has perfected the paradox of seeing the invisible. Seeing the invisible, it is filled with that which is separated from all qualities, neither this nor that, without form, without a name. So the yogi has attained to the insight that thou art, that verily thou art, tat tvam asi. So all the four writers, finally they come to this only, that thou art, tat tvam asi. So these are the 8 steps. Of course, it is according to Advaita philosophy. So any difficulty in this? Any questions? Vijayji?
No, no questions.
No
So
questions,
far.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, then, next general remark here. Hinduism does not consider them as exclusive of one another. Them means the four paths that he has described, this Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Dhyana Yoga, these four paths. He says Hinduism does not consider them as exclusive of one another. No individual is solely reflective, solely emotional, or solely active or experimental. And different life situations call for different resources to be brought into play. The major division is between Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. So, the reflective and the emotional types. The normal pattern, therefore, will be for individuals to cast their religion in either a philosophical or a devotional mode. That is, philosophical mode means in Jnana Yoga. First, you have the whole thing in Jnana Yoga, and there you have Bhakti, Karma, Dhyana, do all these things with the background of Jnana Yoga. And the another one is Bhakti is the main mode, and in that, whatever you want to do, karma or dhyana, it is all with Bhakti only. So he says the normal pattern therefore will be for individual to cast their religion in either a philosophical or a devotional mode, adapt their work to the one that is chosen, and meditate to whatever extent is practicable in that mode only. So this is a final remark. Now, the Western view of Hinduism, all these three authors, what I have described, that gives the Western view of Hinduism. The extracts quoted above clearly show that the Western scholars take Hinduism as being synonymous with monism or Advaita philosophy advocated by the preceptor Shankaracharya in early 9th century. They also appear to hold that there are four different paths to salvation, that is, reaching the God or Brahman and becoming one with him or dissolving oneself into him, according to the disposition of the seeker as to whether he or she is predominantly reflective, emotional, active, or experimental. The last one among the four, namely the Raja Yoga, shows the influence of Patanjali's Yoga Darshan. Now, other traditions in India. In India, there are some other doctrines and traditions also among Hindus, like qualified monism, that is Vishishtadvaita, dualism, Dvaita, Sankhya, Vaisheshika, Shakta, Pashupata, etc., all claiming to be based on Vedas only. And there are still other religious traditions like Jainism, Buddhism, Sikhism, developed and practiced by some Hindus. They don't depend on Vedas. In revolt against some extreme and perverted practices in Hinduism. But Hinduism has no difficulty with these divergent doctrines and religious practices side by side. Hinduism is the most tolerant religion. History reveals that Hindus have never been aggressive in propagating their religion because Hinduism respects all religions and also respects the freedom of people to choose what they feel is good for them. It holds that all saints desire the well being of the people and prescribe a spiritual practice for their followers that suits the local conditions and culture. Therefore, one can find Muslims, Christians, Parsis, Jews, etc., in large numbers in India. And Hinduism is not confined to India alone. Hindus are found in significant proportion of the population in many other countries like Nepal, 89%, Mauritius, 50%, Fiji Islands, 41%, Suriname, 27%, Bhutan, 25%, Trinidad and Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Malaysia. There is no exaggeration if it is said that there is no religion in the world which is not found in India, and there is no country in the world where one cannot find Hindus. So there is nothing wrong if people are proud of their own faith, but some are found in the habit of boasting about their religion. So Harold Kushner, an American rabbi, that is a Jew clergyman, he narrates an interesting experience. He says, some years ago, I participated in an interfaith panel on Larry King's television program. So, on some TV channel, there was a panel discussion of experts from different religions. So, he represented the Judaism, and there were other people, Christianity and Islam, and all other people were there. So there he says, the evangelical pastor, that is the priest of this Christian faith, he was also there. He said, the evangelical pastor on the panel told me that he respected me as an honest and caring person. But because I did not believe what he believed, I would not be saved but would be sent to hell after I died. So he says, because you are not belonging to Christianity, or you don't believe in Christian philosophy, you will not go to heaven, but you will go to hell. The Muslims also think like that. Only those who pray to Allah, they will go to heaven. All other, if you pray to Krishna and all, you will go to hell only. And you have what? No authority to live in this world. You should die, or you should convert it to Islam. So that is their fanatic faith. So he said like this, the evangelical pastor on the panel told me that he respected me as an honest and caring person. But because I did not believe what he believed, I would not be saved but would be sent to hell after I died. I responded, you mean I get to spend eternity with Einstein, Gandhi, Freud, and not with you? He says, you go to some heaven. I will not come there because I am not a Christian. But I will live with others, great people who died without being a Christian. So Einstein, Mahatma Gandhi, Freud, all these people. So this is what he shows, how they are fanatic about their boasting about their own faith. So the purpose of this book, in this book, I am not trying to compare the tenets of Hinduism with those of other religions in the world. And I do not plan to show that my religion is the best religion and my way is the highway. Nor do I intend to discuss the merits and demerits of monism, that is Advaita philosophy, understood by many as Hinduism. So there are some questions before me. So they are, is this monism, that is Advaita, the original teaching of Vedas? My questions are, is this monism the original teaching of Vedas? If not, then what is the essence of Vedic teaching? In its history, extending over more than 3 millennia, Vedic literature has grown to a frighteningly large volume. But what is the cream of Vedic philosophy that is submerged in this vast literature? What is the Vedic wisdom or the message lost in the cobweb of a plethora of subsequent doctrines and traditions. My humble effort in writing this book is to find out and place before the readers the cardinal tenets of Hinduism in its pristine purity, as told by Vedavyasa in his original writing. I do not insist that the reader should accept my findings, but I do request them to consider these tenets of Hinduism before comparing Hinduism with other religions. So, when you compare Hinduism with your own religion, you first know what Hinduism is. So, I do request them to consider these tenets of Hinduism before comparing Hinduism with their religions. If the readers find the tenets of Hinduism as stated here in this book good enough when compared with those of their own religion, they may appreciate and agree with them. And if not, they may simply respect them. But you don't criticize, we simply respect and leave them. So, this is the purpose of this book. That finishes the chapter 2. Now we will go to any
I,
questions on this second chapter?
I have one comment
Ah,
on some recent things. Uh, I saw one blog saying that most of the Americans are Hinduisms by nature, without knowing they follow Hinduism.
ah,
And his argument was, uh, we in America it is a little more tolerant for multiple religions, and they leave freedom of religion is there. So
ah,
with that, along with that, they sort of believe in the concept of karma. A little bit of yoga and meditation is popular, and cremation is also very popular here. So they people may not accept it, but their tolerance level for at least in the city dwellers is fairly Hindu ideology. So that's just a thought I
correct,
got
true.
from
Yeah,
recent.
yeah, he's correct because that is all recent. Because after Vivekananda, there are so many other Hindu saints. They have gone there. ISKCON is there, and all other Chinmaya mission is there, and Dayananda mission is there, and there is a lot of this one propaganda. It is being done there. So, and the people appreciate. There are a lot of people who have followed, who have become members of ISKCON and other things. Even one man, that Ranchor Prime, he is a British man, and he has become a Hindu. So, and he has written about Bhagavad Gita and Hinduism and all that. So it is coming up. Hindus are propagating that. It's true.
Yeah.
So next chapter is problems with Vedic literature. What are the problems that created along with the development of Vedas? Because unlike some other religions, Hinduism is not based on a single work by a divine saint. Just as Islam is told by one Muhammad Paigambar, Christianity is started by one Jesus Christ. So they are all starting from one person. So, but Hinduism is not like that. Hinduism is not based on a single work by a divine saint. Hinduism is founded on Vedas. The Vedic literature, which includes the Vedas and other supplementary work, has grown over a period of thousands of years to a frighteningly large volume and complexity. And the tenets of pristine Hinduism are submerged in this vast literature. So Vedas are considered as apaurushaya. That means they have not come from human beings. It cannot be. It has to come from human beings only. So what apaurushaya means, nobody claims that I have written this. So it is just like our language, you know. In the language, we have got so many nomenclature. We call an animal as a horse. Different words are there in different languages. But who christened that one to that this animal should be called as horse only? Nobody knows. My father and mother were calling this as horse, so I am calling. And they also are calling a horse because their father and mother also they called a horse only. That means the word has come from some human being only, but we don't know the source who first called it as horse or a cow. Same thing in whatever way Rigveda or Yajurveda is there, that mantra, who composed, nobody says. I got it from my teacher. So like that, it is called Apaurusheya. It has come from practice, from parampara. So during the early period, in the early days of Aryan civilization in India, the Aryans, what is Aryans? Aryans, that is civilized people having faith in religion and respect for the laws of the land. That means good people, that is civilized people. They were conscious of their dependence on the powerful forces of nature, like this sun, rain, and lightning, and such things. They personified the powers of nature with a spirit of awe and reverence towards them. And these powers were treated as deities, gods. These deities were conceived in human forms and were regarded as actuated by the same motives and passions as human beings. That means if we praise them, so they will be pleased and they will give whatever we want. If we offer them some food and drink, so they will be pleased. And we can ask them, you give me a son, you give me wealth, you give me power, like that. So they thought the gods also have got the same thing. Whoever is respecting us, we will offer him a favor. So therefore, the Aryans sang in praise of these deities and offered them food and drinks to secure their favor. Such deities were many, like Indra, the god of rain, Varuna, the god of oceans, Agni, the god of fire, and so on. Vishnu and Rudra were there in the list, but they appeared in a very minor roles. In the Rigveda, the most praised god is Indra. Out of about thousand and odd suktas in Rigveda, about 250 to 300 are addressed to Indra, and about 40 are addressed to your Usha Devi, like that, and Varuna, there are many. And for Vishnu, there are only six suktas. And for Shiva, Rudra, there are only three suktas. So, like that, they were in a very minor role. So, the devotional and emotional hymns towards the deities are known as mantras. Mantra means this stotra or the sukta. They are in thousands. Some modern scholars may think that these are just devotional psalms or stotras and they may not contain any philosophic ideas. It is not so. They do contain some seeds of serious philosophy, as shown by the following mantras. Some examples I have given. One says, one says, Indram Mitram Varunamagnimahuratho Divyassa Suparno Garitman Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vatanti. It's a very popular mantra. So, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vatanti. He says that heavenly bird, Garutman, is Indra, Surya, Varuna, Agni, and that one being the wise talk of differently. So he says one God only, they talk of differently as Indra, Varuna, and so on. It suggests the concept of a unitary supreme power even amidst the Vedic pantheon. There are a number of deities, but still below all that, the base is only one supreme being. So another mantra from the well-known Purusha Sukta, so reverentially chanted every day during the routine worship, says that Sahasra Shirsha Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasrapata Savumim Vishwato Vrutva Atyatishta Dashangulam. What it says, that person having thousands of heads, thousands of eyes, and thousands of legs, having surrounded this earth from all sides, remains extended over and above it by a margin of 10 fingers. What it says is mantra conceives a supreme being who is immanent in the world and also transcends beyond it. And another mantra that Dvasuparna Sayuja Sukhaya Samanam Vriksham Parishasvajate Tayor Anyah Pippalam Swadvatti Anashnanne Abhichakasiti. What it says, two birds bound one to the other in close friendship. They are friends. Two birds, they perch on the same tree. One of them eats the berries with relish, while the other looks on without eating. So the allegory in the mantra clearly suggests that the presence of the Supreme Lord in each and every living being, along with the individual spirit, but apart from it. See, both Atman and Paramatman, they are sitting on the same branch. That means they are in the same body. Out of that, one relishes the good and bad things in life, and the other just sakshi. So it just looks on. So he says. So the concept is there. The allegory in the mantra clearly suggests the presence of the Supreme Lord in each and every living being, along with the individual spirit, but apart from it. Thus, though these hymns are in praise of a variety of deities, there is an undercurrent of monotheism, Ekeshwaravada. These hymns have been handed down to us orally from unknown antiquity. It is difficult to guess who composed them and when. Some Western scholars guess that these could have come from a date 1200 to 2400 BCE. But Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak, a leader of the Indian independence movement and an authority on Vedas, holds that these hymns came from a date 4000 years before Christ, 4000 BCE. So, shall we stop here? Any questions?
No questions.
Now, next Sunday, we will see the development of various branches of Vedas and various works in like Upanishads and Brahmanas and other Aranyakas and so on, and how they created difficulty for the common man. That we'll see next Sunday.